The Galactic Council's lead xenobiologist, Veltha of the Ascendant Collective, stared at the holographic display with all four of his ocular senses widened in disbelief. The human DNA sequence rotated before him, a double helix of contradictions that defied every principle of evolutionary psychology his species had developed. Over 10,000 years of civilization. This cannot be correct, he muttered in his clicking language, his translator converting the words for his assistant. Run the analysis again. Isabella Chen, the human liaison assigned to the Council's biology division, leaned against the doorframe with her arms crossed. She'd been watching the alien scientist for 3 hours now, running the same tests over and over, each time hoping for different results. A small smile played at the corners of her lips. It's correct, Veltha, she said softly. I could have told you that from the beginning. The Ascendant scientist's sensory stalks quivered with agitation. But this is impossible. The genetic markers for extreme empathy, the ability to feel another's pain as your own, to sacrifice self-interest for the well-being of strangers, they are positioned directly adjacent to the sequences coding for ... double quotes. He struggled to find the words. Remorseless killer instinct, Isabella offered helpfully. The capacity for systematic violence, the ability to turn off emotion entirely when eliminating threats. Yes, Veltha's translator practically shouted. In every other species we have catalogued all 743 sentient races in the known galaxy. These traits are diametrically opposed. They exist on opposite ends of the evolutionary spectrum. A species develops either cooperative empathy or competitive aggression, never both, and certainly never in such proximity that they can be activated in the same individual. Isabella pushed off from the doorframe and walked to the display, her reflection ghosting through the DNA strands. And yet, here we are. It defies logic, Veltha continued, his voice taking on a desperate quality. The Yalthine are warriors, fearsome, uncompromising, but they have no concept of mercy. The Seraphim are empaths of the highest order, but they cannot even conceive of deliberate violence. Every species finds its balance point on the spectrum and remains there, except humans. Except humans, Isabella echoed, a note of something warning in her voice. Veltha pulled up another display. I have been reviewing your history. This duality explains so much, yet makes everything more terrifying. The same species that invented hospitals and humanitarian aid also perfected weapons of planetary destruction. The same individuals who write poetry about love can become soldiers who show no hesitation in combat. You're beginning to understand, Isabella said quietly. You're Mason Rodriguez. Veltha continued, pulling up a file. The security officer stationed on Outpost Meridian. His psychological profile shows him scoring in the 97th percentile for empathy. He volunteers at the refugee center, donates half his salary to displaced families, and his colleagues describe him as the kindest person they've ever met. I know Mason, Isabella said. He's a good man, and yet Veltha's voice dropped to something approaching horror. 3 months ago, when the Krellian raiders attacked the outpost, this same Mason Rodriguez eliminated 47 hostiles in 6 minutes. The combat footage shows no hesitation, no mercy, no emotional response whatsoever. He moved through them like a force of nature, then, immediately after, provided first aid to the wounded including enemy combatants and wept while holding a dying child. Isabella's jaw tightened. He did what he had to do. We all do, but how? Veltha demanded. How can one individual contain such extremes? My people developed empathy over millions of years, and it made us gentle. The Yalthan developed aggression, and it made them conquerors, but never both. The cognitive dissonance alone should be crippling. Maybe that's why we're so good at it, Isabella said, turning to face the alien scientist fully. Every other species in the galaxy had the luxury of choosing one path and following it to its conclusion. You became perfect empaths. The Yalthine became perfect warriors. But Earth was a death world that gave us no such luxury. She walked to the viewport, staring out at the stars. We had to learn to cooperate in tribes to survive the predators, so we developed empathy. But we also had to become apex predators ourselves, so we developed the capacity for ruthless violence. We had to care deeply about our children while simultaneously being willing to kill to protect them. We had to build civilizations based on compassion while defending those civilizations with lethal force. It is a contradiction, Veltha insisted. It's a balance, Isabella corrected. And yes, sometimes it tears us apart. We call it the human condition, the eternal war between our better angels and our demons. But it's also what makes us survivors. Veltha was silent for a long moment, processing. The council is frightened, he finally admitted. When they learn of this, they will fear humanity even more. They should, Isabella said bluntly, then softened her tone. But they should also hope, because that same genetic code that makes us capable of terrible violence also makes us capable of infinite compassion. We can be monsters, yes, but we can also be heroes. Sometimes we're both in the same moment. She turned back to the scientist. Mason cries himself to sleep some nights, remembering every face of every person he's killed, even though they were trying to murder children. That's the price of our duality. We can do what must be done, but we never stop feeling it. And this is why the Council invited humanity to join, Velthar said slowly, understanding dawning. Not despite this contradiction, but because of it. The galaxy is becoming more dangerous, Isabella agreed. The Void Swarm doesn't negotiate. The consuming dark doesn't feel empathy. You need allies who understand both mercy and war, who can switch between them as needed, who can be diplomatic partners one moment and defend the innocent the next. Velthar looked at the DNA sequence again, seeing it with new eyes. You are right next to each other, he murmured. Empathy and killer instinct, sitting side by side in your genetic code, neither dominant, both always present. Welcome to humanity, Isabella said with a sad smile. We'll fight for you. We'll die for you. We'll show you compassion you've never known. And if someone threatens what we've sworn to protect, we'll become the monsters under the bed that even nightmares fear. All because of two little genes that refuse to stay separated. Terrifying, Velthar whispered. Yes, Isabella agreed, but also beautiful, in its own way. That's what makes us human.